the show now where sports and food collide. Basketball and barbecue, every fan's delight. From the court to the grill, stories we will share. Tasty bites and highlights together everywhere. Sports Bytes, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride. And fried chicken, slam dunks and spicy fries. Catch the play-by-play man on a plate of good times. Join us for the flavor, join us for the game. Every bite and replay, memories will frame. Sports Bytes, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride. Football and fried chicken, slam dunks and spicy fries. Catch the play-by-play man on the plate of good times. Join us for the flavor, join us for the game. Every bite and replay, memories will frame. Sports Bytes, let's unite. Great food and games tonight. Tune in, feel the vibe. It's a winning ride.
Welcome to Sports Bytes. Welcome to Sports Bytes with your host, Chris Joseph. Are you a sports fanatic who loves the thrill of the game and the delicious food that accompanies it?
And then they had chicken fingers, exotic chicken fingers.
Join us as we dive into the world of sports and the delectable bites that make the experience even better. Whether you're in the stadium, tailgating, or watching from the comfort of your home, get ready to satisfy your sports cravings with Chris Joseph on Sports Bytes. Let's dig in.
Yeah, let's dig in, everybody. It is Sports Bytes. Welcome in on this Monday night. It is Reaction Monday, guys, and there is a lot to react to. The college football world was turned upside down this weekend. 5 of the top 11 lost, 4 of those to unranked teams. We're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down. The chat is open, guys. I do want to show you guys this real quick. If you're looking down here, if you're watching on any of the social medias, you see all the social addresses right there, right? On X, at Sports Bytes Pod 1. TikTok, at Sports Bytes Pod. YouTube, subscribe, follow, hit that little bell, hit that like button, all right? At Sports Bytes Podcast, on Instagram, Sports Bytes Podcast. A lot of stuff to get into. Like I said, top 10 mayhem happened. I'll go over give them a 6 or 6 picks, tell you how I did. If my lock hit, that makes me 5-1 on the year on my locks. So maybe I should just, pare it down a little bit and not do so many picks. But my locks are doing pretty damn good. It's OU Texas week. All right. I know I talk about every conference. I love talking about football, but I'm an Oklahoma guy at heart. I've been to the Red River rivalry numerous times. Say that 17,000 times fast. I used to go set up at the fairgrounds. It's going to be a fun week because on Friday, I have Sean Clinch from Inside the Man Cave podcast, Stories from Inside the Man Cave. Big Texas guy. We're going to talk Oklahoma, Texas, the first Oklahoma-Texas game as members in the SEC. And it's a full slate of football this weekend. It's not just that game. Game day is going to be up in Eugene. The Oregon Ducks, Ohio State, top 5 matchup. That Texas matchup, first time since 1984. The Longhorns are going to be number 1 in the country. So a lot going on. But with it being OU Texas week, you know this is Sports Bites. I talk a lot about food, right? I'm going to go over some of the new things to eat at the Texas State Fair. There's some crazy stuff out there, guys. There's some good stuff. And I'll tell you, I love being at the Texas State Fair. Love it. We're going to get into more stories, talk about a lot more. But, man, I got to tell you a little bit about – so being here in Birmingham, I've covered UAB this year, getting to know Trent Dilfer. And, man, I tell you what's going on with Trent right now, it's not good for him. It's not good for the program at UAB. I talked a little bit about what I thought transpired last weekend when they had those conversations. Trent making a comment about, oh, my grandson could come up. It's not freaking Alabama, right? Well, going to rub some people the wrong way here at UAB when you say comments like that. But I had a chance to sit down, and I'm going to play a little bit of that. I had a chance to sit down as part of the Coffee with Coaches today with Trent Dilfer. And here was Trent Dilfer today in his press conference.
I don't have a lot to say. I think the theme of our failures has been too much talk, not enough action. Words are cheap. Actions speak louder than words. And, it's something we've taken very serious the last, since really for a while now, but really since the game. When you're humiliated like that, you have to take a very close look in the mirror, and starts with the person in the mirror. So with that, there's not a lot to say except we got to do a lot better, not just say more things. So fire away.
Coach, from Saturday, just what have you seen out of this building? And what have you seen out of your players going into another tough one on Saturday?
Well, I think the biggest thing was in those moments, and I've been part of some really low moments, but that was one, fourth quarter of the game. All I was thinking about is how do you address your team after something like that. So, I told him, I said, I've let you down. I have not prepared you as well as I wanted to. So if you're looking for somebody to blame me. My biggest fear was the finger pointing game.
I got to stop it there. His comments of, if you're going to blame anybody, blame me. Well, you're the head coach, Trent. People are going to blame you. And Bill Clark, everybody loved Bill Clark, and he had to step away from the program. You had Bryant Vincent in here, and you wanted to replace him with Trent Dilfer. Now, again, I've not had any run-ins with Trent to where I'm like, he's just not a good person. And I talked a little bit about it Friday that I kind of understand, because I was at the press conference the beginning of the year, and I remember coming home telling my wife, I told my dad, hey, this guy, he's a family man. He picked up the phone to answer his grandson call. I didn't have a problem with it. Now, at the Navy press conference, after you just get beat soundly by the Naval Academy, you make the comments that this is not freaking Alabama. They can come up. And I'll say this again. I didn't know, and I guess it's on me. I didn't understand the history of the University of Alabama and UAB, and the fact that there's, some contentious feelings there from UAB fans. Didn't realize that. But Trent had a chance on Monday to double, to kind of, Monday this week or last week to go kind of double down and he did, and made the comment about somebody not being at the game. And I've said before, I didn't like that reaction because you've got to understand from a media outlet perspective, Trent Dilfer, you were in the same state as Alabama and Auburn, okay? And in that day, yes, you played Navy. That's a big game. Navy's a great story. They're undefeated. They're leading the AAC, right? Great story. But you also had Alabama, Georgia. You also had Oklahoma, Auburn. Two of the biggest games in college football that weekend were being played in the state of Alabama. So, as a news coverage, you're going to go where the story is. It's not about a bad football team at UAB playing Navy. Oklahoma's first SEC road game, Alabama, Georgia. That's all you got to say. Alabama, Georgia. That's where all the news coverage is going to be. If you want more news coverage, win football games. Don't sit there and say, blame me. Don't sit there and say, I haven't prepared you well enough. You are making a damn good living, okay? And again, I don't salary hate. Make your money, boo-boo. But don't sit there and come out and say, you're not doing what you're known for. You're not having a good year as far as coaching and, getting away. It's kind of frustrating. And, I'm trying to get back into the good graces of being in the sports media business. And there's a lot of questions I wanted to ask and I didn't. Only because of my connection with the college football dogs, what we're trying to build with this entity. I didn't, I could have stirred the pot today because there were some questions I had that I'm sure would have ruffled some feathers. Maybe it'd have been some clicks, who knows? But maybe I wouldn't be allowed to cover the team. And I would put the college football dogs in a bad situation. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be part there. I'm going to see it. And I tell everybody, I was there Saturday for the Tulane game, and they got absolutely mollywopped, destroyed, okay? Tulane's a good football team. Tulane should have beat Kansas State. One bad play by Mensa led to a scoop and score. Kansas State wins that game. They had a chance in the Oklahoma game, but their two losses are against two top 15 teams where they were extremely competitive. The score was 71-20 Saturday at UAB at Protective Stadium. They could have set this, whatever. They returned a kick. They had a pick six. I mean, they did whatever they wanted to, right? Mekhi Hughes had himself a ball game. Now, he's no Ashton Genty, but he had himself a ball game. And Tulane's a good football team. And they're battling the AAC with Army, undefeated, Navy, undefeated. And here's what's crazy. Think about this. Army and Navy, right? They're undefeated right now. Right now. A lot of football left. But if Army and Navy remain undefeated or they remain at the top of the AAC, they're going to have to play twice at the end of the year. Because the AAC Conference Championship game is the week before the Army-Navy game. So you could have a scenario, say they're both undefeated, they're both going to be ranked. The winner of that game gets that spot in the playoff, then why the hell do you want to play that next game? I mean, I know it's Army-Navy, but, it's one of those, as someone who covers football, you hope for some of that madness to happen, right? You hope for people to lose, like you had this week. 5 top 11 teams lost. And I think all of them lost on the road. So it shows how hard it is to go play on the road. And 4 of those teams lost to unranked opponents, right? It started Friday night, Oregon. Dylan Gabriel had 2 touchdowns, turned the ball over a few times. Oregon won 31-10. UNLV, Kyle McCord threw the ball 63 times for Syracuse. 355 yards, 3 touchdowns. Questionable call at the end of that game. UNLV was ranked number 25 when they played. And the whole Sluka thing with Barry Odom, it was getting really interesting. And you were kind of pulling for UNLV that they would go on to the playoffs and kind of, stick it to Sluka with everything he was doing. So I don't know. I'm going to go over my give him a sixer, 6 picks real quick, tell you about the games that I picked, and then we're going to talk about the games. All right. So you see right here, here's my picks. I didn't have a great day. I was 2-4, right? I was 2-4. I took Texas A&M minus the 2.5. That covered. My lock was Navy minus 9.5, covered. Rutgers plus 7, that was a push, so that's a loss. South Carolina, I don't know what the hell Shane Beamer's doing. I don't know what he's doing. You're out coaching yourself. You're out overthinking. Just stick with what works, man. You've got a good football team in South Carolina. Tennessee and Arkansas, the over, nope. Nobody can score in that damn game. Iowa and Ohio State, almost the over. And I kicked myself for taking the over in that game because it's Iowa. And once again, Iowa against a ranked opponent just is not quite ready for prime time. 35-7. So that's now 4 games, their last 4 games against top 15 opponents. They've been beat by almost 130-7. So can we stop with the Iowa fraud talk and just call them what they are? They're a fraud. They feed on the weaker teams in the Big Ten, Northwestern, Maryland, stuff like that. But every time they play a ranked opponent, it's not there. And like I've said before, I have nothing against Kirk Ferentz, but he's like a professor that has tenure and just can't be let go, I guess. I mean, he's locked in at Iowa. But so that takes me to 20-16 overall on the years, my record as far as my picks, picking 6 games a week. I'm now 5-1 on my locks. Navy minus 9. I'll have my next picks on Friday. Let you know how we're doing there. Again, Friday, come on by the Football Friday night. We're going to preview a laundry list of games. There's some – everyone threw this weekend away, right, because of what's coming up this next weekend. They threw last weekend away. Nobody was really paying attention. They're like, Tennessee, Arkansas, Alabama, Vanderbilt, USC, Minnesota. Nobody's going to care about these games. These games – nope. And so I start talking about the games that I picked, right? And we're going to get into A&M, to Alabama and Vanderbilt, even though it's not on here. We're going to talk about USC, Minnesota. But the first game, Missouri. And I'll say this. I've been a person that I've not been a big fan of Connor Wegman at Texas A&M. I thought Reed should have been the starter. Come to find out that Wegman was a game-time decision, came out and played. And Connor Wegman played the best game of football I've ever seen him play. 18 of 22, 276 yards. That big boy running back for A&M, Le'Veon Moss, 6 foot, 220, looked like Jamar Toombs back in the day. He had a good day. 12 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Eli Drinkwitz and his offense could never get going. The defense couldn't stop anybody, right? A&M, it was an easy victory. Easy victory. Like Missouri was never in the game. Missouri didn't score until it was already 34-0. And Theo East Jr. caught a pass, a 59-yard touchdown from Brady Cook. Cool. Okay. But the game was already over. It was in hand. And now is Missouri a fraud? Is Missouri a fraud? And I've kind of said it all year. I didn't believe in Missouri because they were coming in, pumping their chest after beating an Ohio State team last year in their bowl game that I think had 5 starters playing, maybe. So again, yes, you beat Ohio State. You're Missouri, you beat Ohio State, you're happy. You don't look good. You look outmatched. Now Missouri, you got to go on the road at UMass this weekend. How did you get your SEC bye week after that? Now you're going to need to lick your wounds. They're going to need to get better. A&M will travel to Stark Vegas to hear the cowbells. Mississippi State, that's a team that needs a win. That's a team that needs a win bad. But I think A&M could be a surprise in the SEC. It's crazy to think They're sitting there undefeated in the SEC. Texas A&M, that one loss early in the year to Notre Dame, now they're undefeated. Next game I picked, talked a little bit about, was the Navy midshipmen, right? I took Navy over Air Force, and it's a game that I love the game being that I'm prior military. I've got family that were in the Air Force forever, so I always love the Service Academy games. And I love watching option football still. Like I said, a kid growing up in Oklahoma, watching Jamel Holloway, Charles Thompson, all those guys, watching Nebraska run the option. That was my childhood, and I loved it. Loved it. That's why I like watching Navy and Air Force. But I'm going to tell you right now, Navy's not just an option team. Now, Blake Horvath at quarterback is somebody you got to keep your eye on, man. This guy just plays phenomenal, right? I love watching. He was 9 of 15, 134 yards. He also led the team in rushing with 19 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. Eli Heidenreich, who's also their best receiver, he had 100 yards rushing, and he had 101 yards receiving. And they can come at you in a multitude of fashions now. And that's why I love this offense and how they've expanded. And you can go into even talking about that Vanderbilt, that Clark Lee offense that they were running with the belly dive shovel passes, stuff that you're putting people in confrontation. And a bug just fly by me. Confrontation points to where you have to make a decision. And because you don't see option football, you see RPO. But that's not straight line option. That's not, triple option. And that's why I think it was so weird watching the Alabama game. And I'm going to get into the Alabama game here in a minute. I want to hear Alabama fans' thoughts. Jump in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling about Kalen DeBoer. But Navy's a good football team. It's not just a cute story anymore. They're a good football team. Now, they got Charlotte, and then they'll take on Notre Dame on the 26th of October. I almost like Navy in that game. That's a tradition-rich rivalry. They've played forever. But Navy against Notre Dame, ooh. Now, they're off this weekend. Navy's off this weekend. Next will be on the 19th against Charlotte. I think they'll handle Charlotte pretty easily. Charlotte's not a good football team. But 5-0, the Navy midshipmen. Who would have thought? Right? Who would have thought? Next game that I picked them, I give them a 6 or 6 picks. Went back to, some classic football. Nebraska. You're hoping Nebraska had a chance to be good, right? And I didn't watch all the game. I kind of caught bits and pieces of it. Not a great game. Not a great game at all. Monogany, 78 yards for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Dylan Raiola, 13 of 27, 134 yards, 1 interception. It was capped 2 touchdown runs for Nebraska, a 1-yard run and an 11-yard run. Now, Kalakamanis, the quarterback for Rutgers, had 2 picks. That kind of spelled doom for Rutgers. But, yeah, it was a boring football game. I'm sorry. It was just a boring football game. But Nebraska, they're 5-1. Rutgers 4-1. Nebraska now will take on a red-hot Indiana team on the 19th. So they got to bye before they go on the road to Indiana. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana's favored in that game. Wouldn't be surprised. Indiana is playing really good football. I can't believe those words have come out of my mouth, but Indiana is playing really good football. Now, Rutgers, they got a week. Actually, they take on Wisconsin this week up there in New Jersey. So we'll see how good it is for those guys. What do you think about the Pitt Panthers? Man, I'm glad you brought that up, Deanna, and welcome to the show, Deanna. The Pitt Panthers, I've really liked watching what I see. Narduzzi, those guys, man. Pitt Panthers, I love that they've went back to what, they used to wear like that. But beating North Carolina, Pitt's 5-0. Holstein at quarterback, 381 yards, 3 touchdowns against North Carolina. and that comeback scoring 10 points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I'm really buying in on Pitt. If you look at the ACC right now, Miami's flirting with disaster a lot, right? They were down big to Cal. They came back, benefit of a flag or of a no call. Clemson's playing really good football right now. They're probably playing, I would say, between Clemson and Pitt, the best football in the ACC. And Pitt's schedule, it really kind of favors them. You've got this weekend they play Cal. Now, Cal's going to be a tough matchup for Pitt, but again, Cal's got to come all the way to Pittsburgh for that game. Syracuse, SMU, who's playing really good football. Virginia, surprisingly playing good football. Clemson, Louisville, Boston College. So if they can continue, to do as they are, Pitt could be a big surprise and wind up in that ACC championship game. I mean, they're 5-0. And the thing about winning, you live in Pittsburgh, a diehard FSU fan. I'm going through some pain. Oh, Deanna, I'm so sorry. I'm rooting for Pitt as well. I'll tell you this, Deanna. I feel bad for Florida State. I got a really good friend of mine here that's a Florida State fan. And, I love the area. I love being down there. Root for Pitt. Yeah, root for Pittsburgh as well. Or Pitt. I forgot. Up there it's Pitt, not Pittsburgh. Sorry. Pittsburgh is for the Steelers, as my friend TJ would say. Pittsburgh is for the Steelers and the Pirates. Pitt is for the Panthers and the College. But, with everything that happened last year with FSU, I talked a lot about Florida State. They were one of my top 4 at the beginning of the year last year. I picked them to be in the playoffs because of, after watching the Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma, I think they did. A lot of this talk about, you got to put the best teams in, but what the NCAA, what the College Football Playoff Committee did to Florida State, what they did to the ACC, they minimalized an undefeated season. If you're a group of 5, Power 5s conference, and you go undefeated, you should have been in the playoffs, right? Should have been in the playoffs. And here's the thing, and I hate it for Jordan Travis when he got hurt. And we can talk all, and I hate when people try to say, see, this is the team that, they try to sit there and say they were in the playoffs. This team at Florida State right now is not that team from last year. It's not that team. And Norvell, you're saying Kirk. Yeah, Kirk, they let him know. They let him know, especially over there in Ireland. They let him know it will take 5 years to rebuild. I hope not. And what's so crazy is the fact that you look at last year, Deanna, and Norvell got so many of those guys to come back and buy in. Jared Verse, Jordan Travis, everybody that, Keon Coleman, they all came back. They all wanted to be part of that. And you knew when they won that Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma, you saw it. You're like, this is going to be a team next year you need to watch out for. And with what they brought, I was like, this is going to be it. OSU POS. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Ohio State. I always tell people I'm very glad that Baker Mayfield went up there and planted the flag. I'm still not sold on Ohio State this year either. I'm waiting for maybe this is the weekend that they fall against Oregon. They got to go to Eugene, which I tell you, an underrated venue is Autzen Stadium. Now, it's not the biggest, right? Not the biggest, but I think one of the loudest places I've ever been to. He's going to be under investigation. Ooh, Herb Street? Dan, do you think they're going to be investigating Herb Street? Come on. What are they going to investigate him on? Letting Ben run around? Sunbelt winning record is impressive with how some of the games have gone this season. Hey, yeah. Winning record is impressive. Absolutely. Sometimes Kirk is a little pro Ohio State. I don't know what they would investigate him on. Now, if you're sitting there talking about ESPN pulling some strings, controlling their own, duels and, for their stories, I'll agree with you. I think ESPN kind of does that, which I was surprised. And I'll say this. I was surprised that this weekend they weren't in Texas for the Oklahoma-Texas game, being it's the first Red River game in the SEC. But going up to Eugene, they'd already come to Oklahoma, for the Tennessee game. So I was really intrigued about that. Next game I want to talk about, South Carolina. I took South Carolina plus the 9. I had them. I thought they were going to come in there and win the game because, again, you don't want to scoreboard watch. You don't want to be a box score reader, right? But when you watch the game that South Carolina played against Kentucky and how easily they manhandled Kentucky, how easily they stayed in the backfield of Brock Vandagriff, and then you watched Ole Miss struggle and lose to that same Kentucky team, right? The same Kentucky team. But then you go out. I root against every team in the Week 10. They play high school teams. All right. What do you think of the new Big 10? Adding USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington. What do you think about the new Big 10? Now, I'll tell you, if you're in Pittsburgh, I love it up there because my mom's whole side of the family is from southern West Virginia. So there's a lot of times when you go hunting, you go into Pennsylvania. I've had family that was West Virginia grads, and you got to go through Pittsburgh when you fly in. When you're going to a game there in Morgantown. I love being at a West Virginia game. Kegler's a great place, and of course Pittsburgh. The Permanente brothers, right? You got to go Permanente brothers. Notre Dame should not be independent either. Deanna, you're absolutely right. You are 100% correct. I agree with you 100%. And here's what's crazy is they could be undefeated. They could be undefeated and still not get a bye in the playoffs because they're not in a conference. They can't get it. They can't get a top 4 seed because it's the top 4 seeds are for the conference champions, not for Notre Dame. They play awful teams as well. They're all drunks in Pittsburgh. Well, nothing else to do in Pittsburgh, is there, Deanna? I mean, Pittsburgh, West Virginia. You have a couple cold ones, and you have a good time. But the South Carolina Ole Miss game, and it was over quick. Jackson Dart didn't have like the explosive day that he usually has. He was 14 to 27. He was serviceable. 14 to 27, 285 yards. I was really surprised at the ineffectiveness. Lenore Sellers, 20 of 32, 162 yards, 1 pick. He led the team in rushing, and the fake punt, bringing in Robbie Ashford, it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. And now South Carolina sitting there with 2 losses in the conference, sitting at 3-2. Next up for South Carolina, they got Alabama. Talk about a tough stretch for South Carolina. Ole Miss, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, A&M, Vanderbilt. You can't consider Vanderbilt a cakewalk anymore, guys. Missouri, Wofford, the Terriers, they should smack them around. Then the Palmetto Bowl against Clemson. I love watching Notre Dame go on TV and check up on you. Hey, I think Notre Dame has 2 more losses at least in this year. I think they lose the Navy, and I think they lose the Army. I think Navy's a better football team than the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Watch for Blake Horvath at quarterback. Eli Heidenreich, one of those wing T receivers. Man, Notre Dame, Oklahoma went up there and played them mid-2000s. And, man, Roll Tide went down the carry the goal. I was going to talk about that, Dan. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive, the fact that Vanderbilt carried the field, the fans carried the field goal post almost 4 miles. And the internet won this weekend because there's people like, hey, how many bachelorette parties did they upset in Nashville with the goal post? And they had to bring it down, right? They had to bring it down. Let's jump in and talk about that game. All right. Let's talk about Alabama. Let's talk about Vanderbilt. The game that I was at, I was covering the UAB Tulane game. So I'm in the stadium in Birmingham, and I'm watching the game, and of course, you got the game in front of you. You're watching everything, and I've got my computer and I've got my YouTube TV, right? So I have the quad vision, man, which I love YouTube TV. Fuck direct TV. You screwed a lot of people over. And when you call, ask for like, oh, we're going to take care, we give you 20. No, I'm paying more than half less. I see more games. I've got, the multi-view. I got 4 games on at a time. Yeah, I'm all about YouTube TV. So I'm at Protective Stadium watching the Alabama game start, and it was starting right at the time the game was over. Now the game was actually over early, but time wise, the game was over, and I'm watching. And people are like, oh man, okay, Tennessee Vanderbilt scored. Oh, Vanderbilt scored again. Now they missed the extra point, but they scored again. All right, Alabama scored, and then they go on a 17-play drive. 3 miles impressive, yes, absolutely. Hell, walking 3 miles is impressive to me, much less with you're inebriated and a field goal post on your shoulder. And I've walked down Broadway in Nashville. It's not flat. It's not flat. You agree? Good. I'm glad you're going to. I think Navy beats them. I think Navy beats Notre Dame. But here's the thing about this Alabama game, right? I've never, and I know fan is short for fanatics. I get it. But watching people burn their Alabama gear because of the loss, watching people, like I said, I live in Birmingham, Alabama right now. And people are having absolute come-aparts because they lost to Vanderbilt. Absolute come-aparts. I laugh a little bit at it because, again, if you watch the game, Vanderbilt beat Alabama, okay? They can't say Alabama played poorly. The pick six from Milroe was a tip pass. He didn't see the blitz, as a great play on the Vanderbilt defense to get a fumble. He was still 18-24, 310 yards, 1 touchdown. Ryan Williams does Ryan Williams things. Jam Miller, 5 carries, 45 yards. But Diego Pavia, give that man his flowers, right? Give him his flowers. Because he bought in on himself, right? He bought in on himself. God, I got to get my lighting right. I look like I've been running like 7 miles. My face isn't this red. Maybe I need to start wearing makeup. Look, you can tell from my hands, my face, I look like Brother Love from the WWE. But Vanderbilt outperformed Alabama. They controlled the clock, right? Vanderbilt was 12 of 18 on third downs. 12 of 18. They had the ball for 25 more minutes. They had the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds. And the thing I love about it is every time Alabama responded, so did Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt came right back over the top. And what was interesting was watching the interview post-game with Clark Lee, and you hear him talk, Cole Kublik, who works down here in the Birmingham area on the game. They're talking about how much he's had to change to be able to coach players today, because it's not like, Nick Saban those days. Look, we don't have to like it, but you have to understand that football has changed. The NIL, the transfer portal, you may not like it. I don't like how it's as open and as free willy-nilly as it is, but I understand why some guys want to leave, right? But this game outplayed them. Like there wasn't any fluke plays. There wasn't any, no. They outplayed Alabama every facet of the game. And I tip my hat. Coming up next at 8:30, you got the Golden Boot podcast here on the Dog Network, Dog TV, right? Vandy Chris, if you're out there listening, Vandy Chris, congratulations. Enjoy yourself. You have been one of the most loyal fans for a team that is terrible that I've ever come across. I commend you for your loyalty, so enjoy your victory, sir. There's no gimmicks. There's no controversy. Your team won, and they won convincingly. Now, the thing I don't understand, Vandy, is if you're out there, I want you to respond. If not, I'll pop onto your show and ask the question. How the hell were there so many Alabama fans there when everybody's buying into Clark Lee? Now, I remember back in the day when Baylor was terrible before Art Briles got there. You could go to a Baylor game if you were Oklahoma and get 50-yard line tickets really cheap. Same in Lawrence. You could go up there, but I was surprised at how much red was in Nashville. And now everybody's pissed off at Kalen DeBoer. Everybody's pissed off at how, how he's letting the team act, the showboating, the dancing. It's what football is. And I'd love to be that curmudgeon, and get off my yard, old guy, and don't celebrate. Just do like Barry Sanders and flip the ball to the referee. Sure. But that's not what the game is anymore. Okay. It's not, unfortunately. You got to let them celebrate. You got to let them dance. As long as I don't really take, for instance, the South Carolina Ole Miss game. The guy gets tackled. He tackles somebody and acts like he's shooting them. You can get away from that. You want to dance, do a little hip thrust, whatever, cool. Spike the football, okay. Choreographed dances, sure. It's kind of like the Key and Peele. Just watch how many hip thrusts that you give so you don't get penalized for that. But now the talk's about Malachi Moore. What is interesting about Malachi Moore is I'm watching the play, and I'm watching at the end when he shoves Pavia's helmet into the ground. I was very surprised that there wasn't a flag, because that was an egregious display of unsportsmanlike conduct. Egregious. No reason for that. Then you see him mad. He's pouting, he's stomping, throws his mouthpiece down the field. And all these people are like, well, Nick Saban would take his. No. Nick Saban would sit him down and he'd talk to him. There's a interview he did. Someone asked him about, benching a guy because of a problem. And he said, why would I do that? Kind of defending his choices to take care of people, right? But then Malachi Moore goes over and kicks the football right in front of the referees. And Kalen, I'll say this, that's when you've got, now they tried to come get him off the field. He wouldn't come off the field. That's when I have a conversation. I get it. It's an emotional game played by emotional people. You still need to be able to control yourself. But when your coach comes over, first it's your defensive coordinator. Kane Womack's coming over there. Then you see Kalen DeBoer, and you're showing your ass on the field. Showing your ass. You got to be, especially if you're a captain. Now, Damian Harris on a podcast came in and kind of said, look, that whole class, Reuben Foster we'd have ripped the C off his shirt. And again, it's different. Even though it wasn't that long ago, it's a different time for college football right now. It's a different time. But Alabama loses 35-40 to the Vanderbilt Commodores. They got South Carolina this weekend in Tuscaloosa. A chance to get back, get right. Vanderbilt 1-1. Vanderbilt is tied with Alabama in the SEC. Next up for the Commodores, they will go at Kentucky. Whoo! Prime time, SEC Network, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. I love it. Give them their flowers. Vandy Chris, I hope you enjoyed it. I always love seeing the chaos. Even when it's my team, when Oklahoma, you just kind of laugh at it. And it reminds me a lot of the 2007 season, right? And just how crazy that was. But you look at this weekend and what happened. Missouri goes down. Arkansas beats Tennessee. Arkansas struggled with UAB. UAB just got curb stomped by Tulane 71-20. Then Arkansas goes out there and shuts down Tennessee. It's 3-0 at the end of half. This high-powered, amazing offense, Nico Iamaleava, Sampson, and couldn't get it done. Now, Sampson still had a good game. 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nico Iamaleava, played really well against Oklahoma, had the 2 fumbles. Taylor Green, 19 to 27, 266, got hurt late. But at the end of the game, like, what were you doing, Nico? You got to let the ball go, right? You got to let the ball go. But that's what's so crazy about college football is you can't base it. You can't base it on that. I mean, Arkansas looked terrible against UAB. Maybe they were looking past them. Maybe they didn't work a lot on UAB. But UAB was up 17-0, I think, 17-3 on Arkansas in Fayetteville. I don't know. Georgia knocked off Auburn 31-13. Carson Beck, bounce back game for them. Florida beat Central Florida. Hey, thoughts and prayers going out to the people in Florida that are in the way. Another hurricane coming. It's just. I mentioned Ohio State. They beat Iowa 35-7. Again, Iowa, a fraud when they play top 10 teams. They just get absolutely smoked. Penn State, I'm still not buying Penn State, right? Drew Aller, 17-24. The first time that Penn State's going to get challenged, they play USC this weekend. I mean, maybe, but USC's reeling after losing to Minnesota. Ohio State, Washington just knocked off Michigan, so maybe they can lose that game. But I'm not sold on Penn State yet either. Miami, the late night, the woke versus Coke game. Cam Ward comes back, stormed all the way back, scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter, 437 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mentioned Missouri, they lose to A&M 41-10. Washington knocks off Michigan, a rematch of the national championship game by uniform only, right? It's by uniform only because that was not the same teams either. Washington, Will Rogers, 21-31, 271, 2 tugs, played well. Donovan Edwards from Michigan, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. Just Michigan's not the same. Their first loss in the Big Ten, but now you've got 2 losses on the year. USC, I know there's a lot of people upset with Lincoln Riley. Miller Moss, only 200 yards passing. Minnesota wins that game 24-17. Clemson knocks off Florida State 29-13. Iowa State, maybe the best team right now in the Big 12. BYU's up there as well. Rocco Beck playing extremely well at quarterback for the Cyclones. Really like that. But the guy, Indiana, Curtis Rourke, needs to be in consideration for the Heisman. Indiana put up 41 on Northwestern, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's played well. Indiana's 6-0. SMU gets away with a call. They come back, beat Louisville 34-27. But the guy that nobody's talking about, Ashton Jeanty. Why aren't more people talking about this guy? I didn't save the graphic and I wanted to. Did anybody see the comparison of what Ashton Jeanty has done in his first 5 games compared to Derrick Henry? You need to look it up. Because what Ashton Jeanty doing right now, I mean, he's going on like a Barry Sanders type run. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think about what he's doing right now. He's got 95 carries. 95 carries for 1,031 yards. An average of 10.9 yards a carry. 16 touchdowns. Put that into perspective what he did last year. Last year, he had 220 carries. So almost 130 more than what he has now. And he had 1,347 yards and 14 touchdowns, averaged 6.1 yards a carry. What Jeanty is doing right now is unbelievable. Right now, he is my Heisman frontrunner. That's my Heisman frontrunner. I think, I love Travis Hunter. I put, Curtis York up there. Blake Horvath needs to start getting some look. And there's still a lot of football left to go. But, man, Ashton Jeanty has just been amazing. Now, go over I'm a part of the FWAA, the Super 16 voters. And so I'm going to go over my top 16 that I turned in a vote for this weekend. At number 16, dropping down Michigan. I got Boise State at 15. Notre Dame 14, Iowa State 13, LSU at 12, Missouri to 11. They lost to a top 25 team. Clemson at 10, Ole Miss at 9, Tennessee 8, Miami, Florida, the Canes at 7, Georgia at 6, Bama at 5, Penn State at 4, Oregon 3, Ohio State 2, Texas 1. And one of those teams in the top 5 is going to lose this weekend at least with that Oregon-Ohio State game, so we'll talk about that. But we all know it's time for the Texas State Fair. It's one of the best places. I swear to God, I feel like Templeton from Charlotte's Web when I would go out there rolling around. You got to get a Fletcher's Corny Dog. You got to get a wax cut beer. You got to have, it's a great time. It's a great environment. Fairs are always known for the food, right? And here on Sports Bites, we talk food. Here are some of the top 10 new food items. And let me know what you think. Would you try this if you were at the Texas State Fair? Now, again, they've got your traditional, the walking tacos, fried butter, fried Oreos. Like I said, Fletcher's Corny Dogs was where it was at. Just something about the cornmeal, amazing. With a beer, it was perfection, right? You buy the coupons, you pay the coupons, you get your Fletcher's Corny Dog, mustard, wax cut beer, everything's great. But now there's so many new entrees to try, right? And the first one, they're called drowning taquitos. Look at that. You would think it would be kind of, soggy, but served in a cup, drowning taquitos are hand-rolled corn tortillas stuffed with tender shredded chicken and then deep fried. The taquitos are then drowned with a tangy crema sauce, jalapeno, guacamole salsa, shredded lettuce, avocado, tomatillo, pico, and some cojita cheese. I'd hammer this. Plain and simple. I love taquitos. Give it to me. I mean, I think the walking taco was first invented here at the Texas State Fair, but drowning taquitos, man. Whoo. Next up, the hippie chips. Nachos made with wavy potato chips can be prepared with homemade ranch or blue cheese, topped with bacon bits, fresh green onions, and a tangy drizzle of sriracha. You can also add blue cheese crumbles. I know we've had the conversation when I was talking about wings. I'm a blue cheese guy, right? I like my cheese to smell like bad meat. I'm just going to say it. I love blue cheese. These, I would hammer too. And I think they'd be good either way. I think they'd be good with ranch, and I think they'd be good, or you get the ranch with the sriracha and you put the blue cheese crumbles on it, you got the best of everything, right? Now, this next thing, for somebody who likes to smoke meat, for somebody who likes to, grill and get into it, everybody knows burnt ends, right? If you've not had burnt ends, you need to try burnt ends. But now they've got Texas fried burnt end bombs. Give me the antacid because I'm going to have a couple of these. Flavorful bombs featuring tender brisket wrapped in shredded potatoes, bacon, cheese, deep fried, finished with a drizzle of a raspberry chipotle barbecue. Oh, sweet and savory, every bite. I'm in. Give me 14 of them right now. I would destroy those. I'm all for it. If you like the really sweet, you can go with the Nevin's Nutty Bar Laska. Sweet treat remains the classic Nutty Bar by adding toasted marshmallow, 2 Oreos, strawberry sauce, and freeze-dried strawberry pieces, all on a stick. So it's one of those chocolate Nutty Bars, right? With toasted marshmallow, 2 Oreos. I'm diabetic, so I probably would stay away from it. I'd go more towards the savory stuff. Now this, I'm going to warn you, if you're watching on live, okay, I'm going to warn you. I'm just going to warn you. This looks kind of weird. And if you're just somebody's walking by your screen and they glance it, you're like, what the hell is that? This is Russo's cotton candy bacon on a stick. The cotton candy bacon on a stick showcases a hefty 12-inch piece of perfectly cooked bacon coated in a layer of cotton candy, spun in a cotton candy machine, then torched to caramelize the center, locking in a delicious sweetness. That, I don't know. I love bacon. I love bacon, especially a big, thick piece like that. Like I love pork belly. I don't know if I'm trying that. One, I don't know. It just doesn't look good to me. Okay. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I'm not in. No. Now, something I would be in on, the strawberry Pop-Tart Vignetteful, right? This sweet treat blends the favors of New Orleans beignets with the nostalgic charm of Pop-Tarts and waffles, all served on a stick. You got to love it, right? It features a fluffy beignet paired with a crispy waffle, topped with a homemade strawberry filling, a sweet vanilla icing drizzle, and the fresh whipped cream. The finishing touch is a sprinkle of colorful confetti, adding both flavor and a playful touch. Now, you also have beverages there, right? Beverages are good. The Texas two-step punch. You can get it both alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Marinates a vibrant mix of citrus fruits, passion fruit, and mango. So I would imagine rum or tequila goes in that, right? So if you want to get your drink on and you're not big on, drinking beer and stuff like that, that's where you go. These right here, I don't understand. The Texas Sugar Rush pickles. Now, for those that are watching, you see this cup. It looks like these modern day Bloody Marys when people are putting freaking hamburgers and chicken legs and stuff in their Bloody Marys. I don't get it. But this is called the Texas Sugar Rush pickles, right? Cotton candy flavored pickles coated in a trio of cereals, Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, layered with cotton candy sugar crystals, and powdered sugar, finished with a drizzle of strawberry sundae syrup. The dressed up pickles are then served alongside a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Can we stop? Can we stop with the pickle stuff? I like pickles. Now, I like pickles, but not to that point. My man Harry James Taylor, how you doing, buddy? Are you gonna go down to Texas this weekend? You gonna check out the state fair? Gonna get you a fried Oreo, Harry? For those who don't know, Harry is famous, guys. Harry is a diehard OU fan. He's been on the Feinbaum show. He's everywhere. Anything to do with the University of Oklahoma, Harry is there. Harry was one of the loyal people that used to listen to me when I was on the radio back in Oklahoma. So it's always good to see when Harry pops in. Yes, sir, you know it. Hey, well, I'll tell you what, buddy. Have a corn dog on me. I won't make it to this one, but I've seen you at the games. I've seen you at the events. I know you love your Sooners, so I hope we're talking about a victory next week. Come by on Friday, Harry. I don't know when you're heading down, but Friday night I'm having Sean Clinch on, big Texas guy. We're going to talk this game and kind of get everybody ready for it. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you, hot chicken pancake poppers. This is another thing like the burnt ends. Give me about 7,000, right? A blend of authentic Nashville hot chicken pimento cheese is shaped into a ball, coated in pancake batter, and fried to a perfect golden brown. Every bite is enhanced with a drizzle of sriracha honey and a dusting of Nashville hot powdered sugar. Fuck me up with that. I'm all in. Harry says fried Dr. Pepper. Yeah. Love the clincher. But I thought I was the only one that called him the clincher. Yep, Sean Clinch will be on, Harry. He's going to be on Friday. I talked to him this weekend. He was coming back from Nacogdoches watching Stephen F. Austin. He went to school out there. He was watching the Lumberjacks play, Axum Jacks, But yeah, Clinch is going to come on Friday. We're going to talk about this game. But guys, as always, like I said, I'm leading everybody up to the Golden Boot. The guys on the Golden Boot do a fantastic job. Now I'm going to tell you this. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity because George, one of the hosts, huge Arkansas fan. He's going to be celebrating, right? George is going to be celebrating. Arkansas beat Tennessee. The other guy, Vandy Chris, been waiting for years. He is a diehard Vanderbilt fan. Everything Vanderbilt. Baseball, basketball, like anything Vanderbilt athletics, Vandy Chris is all about. And I'm going to tell you this. Enjoy your evening, sir. Soak it in because there's one they can't take it. Can't take it. Beat Bama. Harry, yes, they did. They did beat Bama. And living here in Birmingham, Harry, I'm going to tell you, the Bama fans, they're not having fun. They're not liking things right now. Now, I will divulge on this a little bit. And I don't want to say this and get misconstrued by anybody. I am an Oklahoma guy, without question. Got my Sooner here. I took my kid to watch the Auburn game. I love the Sooners. I had them a 7-5, 8-4 team this year at the preseason. There's not a team now on the schedule that's not beatable. Now, I'm not saying they're going to beat them, so don't take, but there is not a team on that schedule that is not beatable now. Missouri, beatable. Alabama, they're beatable. Ole Miss is beatable. South Carolina, so I mean, but again, on the flip side to that, every team on that schedule, God forbid, except for Maine, knock on wood, every team on that schedule except for Maine could beat Oklahoma as well. But that's what you want to come into the SEC, right? Texas is beatable. Hey, especially in this game, Harry. Now, I'll tell you, I know you still listen to TJ and T-Row in the morning on the T-Row show, and you got to wait to hear what TJ's gut feels. Right now, I'm going to tell you, my gut doesn't feel good about the game. I'm optimistic. I hope that Oklahoma can go out there and perform. I know I've talked to some Texas people, and they don't like the fact that they're a 14.5-point favorite going into the game. They wish it was, Oklahoma's going to have a chip on their shoulder. Defense is going to have a chance to get their legs underneath them, be a little more rested. We know what they did last year. If you can get to Ewers, make him make some mistakes, who knows, right? But as I sit right now, from what I've seen, I think Texas is the better team. Now, again, that doesn't mean I'm not going to root for my guys. That doesn't mean I'm not going to sit there and, hope that Michael Hawkins Jr. goes out there and tears it up. Maybe we get Deion Burks back, Taylor Tatum, all that. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk more about that on Friday. Again, guys, follow all the socials, okay? I'm active on everything. I'm active on TikTok. I'm active on Twitter. I'm active everywhere. You got to do more than a 45-yard quarterback draw on a 65. You're right, Harry. You're right. You got to make more plays. But you know what? Michael Hawkins has been preparing himself for this moment. Being trained by Kyler Murray's dad. He came to Oklahoma knowing that Jackson Arnold was there, and he wasn't afraid of competition. So I believe him. I like he's got that moxie, right? He's got that moxie. But again, look down here on the X. Follow at Sports Bytes Pod 1. TikTok, I put up daily poll questions. I put up some clips from the Trent Dilfer press conference where I was at today. At Sports Bytes Pod on TikTok. Subscribe to YouTube at Sports Bytes Podcast. Subscribe, click that little bell. Like I said, I love having a live interactive show. I'm working stuff out, trying to get through to know how I can get it done. There's the source that I play my podcast through is called Podbean. Podbean has, and Harry, you might love this, and I'm gonna tell you because I know you used to call into my show all the time back in Oklahoma. Podbean has the ability to where you can do a live show. So I can kind of set this up. Like if you're watching on TV, because we're using StreamYard and stuff like that. If you're watching on any of the socials where it's streaming, right? But I could also have Podbean, a live show going to where I can take phone calls. Be like a live call-in show, which I love. I love the interaction. I love caller-driven shows. I mean, the interaction is so much fun. Just talking ball. But guys, that's going to do it for me tonight, man. I love you all. Thank you all so much for coming on. Thank you for participating. Deanna P. Vince, thank you for hopping on. Hope we earned your loyalty with us, that you come back on Friday, come back on Monday. Please participate. Harry James Taylor, brother, it's always a pleasure to see you. I know we used to hang out all the time. We see you at all the games, at the 65 team giveaway at Buffalo Wild Wings. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm glad to see you have discovered this and are participating as well. But guys, enjoy it. Monday Night Football's going on. Oh, by the way, can I say this about the NFL real quick? Uh-oh. Are the Washington Commanders for real? I'm cautiously optimistic on my guys because I've seen them play good and then fall apart. But they seem to be one of the best teams in the NFC right now. I'm going to talk to Sean Clinch about that on Friday. But guys, everybody, just have a great night, right? Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. Guys, remember to always positively move forward. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining us on this delicious journey through the world of sports and food on Sports Bytes with your host, Chris Joseph. We hope you've enjoyed the game day stories and culinary adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any mouth-watering sports-related tales or favorite game day recipes, share them with us on social media. Until next time, remember, it's not just about the game. It's about the bites that make it unforgettable. Stay hungry for more Sports Bytes.